Hello everyone, I am so excited to share some information with you about our next project. Now this project is going to start on Wednesday, February the 6th. I'm going to be releasing clues or puzzle pieces around noontime on Wednesdays. So let me show you what we're going to do. If you'd like a copy of this information sheet, which has fabric requirements and supplies you need, and an example of what we're doing, I'm going to put down in the description box. There's a little arrow somewhere here, or it might say see more underneath of this video title. That'll open up the description box. You'll find a link and you can download this. It's in my Dropbox. Let me go over what we're doing. I'm so excited. I'm having a hard time staying focused. So focus, Lisa. This is not a jigsaw puzzle quilt. However, it is inspired by these little drawing puzzles that I've always loved to do. Now, we're not doing a Despicable Me quilt, but they did have an example of what I'm talking about in this activities book. Do you remember doing these where each one of the blocks has a little bit of information and you just copy and draw free-handed the information in each block, and when you're done you have drawn the whole picture, only bigger, right? So I took that concept and made this art quilt pattern with all of these different puzzle pieces. Now I don't know if there's anything like this out there, and if there is, I would love to hear about it, because I think this is so much fun. I would love to partake in other puzzle quilts that are like this as well, not just this one. So this one is a stained glass flower puzzle quilt, and that's really all the information I'm going to give you about the details of what this quilt will look like. It will have a border, and it's going to be 40 inches wide and 50 inches long. So it is an art quilt, and if you decide you're not going to make this quilt, I would still really love it if you join us on Wednesdays and watch the videos and maybe be inspired by some of the techniques that we're going to do in this quilt, because this is not going to be your traditional type of quilt, and we're going to break a couple quilting rules because I really feel like art quilts, they don't really have any rules. You can do so much with an art quilt that really may not work in your traditional quilts that you would use on your bed, that get laundered and get used a lot. And so art quilts, you can do so much more. And so even if you don't play along, I still hope you join us every Wednesday when a new video comes out, and just follow along and just really hang out with me and us. So first, let me just start by saying there is a cost associated with this project. It's going to be $1.50 a week. Okay, and so there's 8 weeks. So the total cost of joining in on this mystery puzzle quilt will be $12 if you follow along every week for 8 weeks. So basically 2 months. And I'm going to release the clues on Wednesday around lunchtime, and they will be in my Etsy shop. And I'll put a link in each one of the videos, and you can just click on that and it'll bring you over to the listing with the puzzle pieces. So this sheet, if you go ahead and get it now in the description box, it's going to give you the fabric requirements. Let's just go through them really quickly. The backing, you're going to need 1.5 yards. The batting, you're going to need a piece of batting that is at least 40 inches wide and 50 inches long. The puzzle base. Now, I will explain in our first video this coming Wednesday how exactly we're going to use that, but that's just a scrap piece of fabric that is 30 inches wide by 40 inches tall. So we're not going to actually see that fabric. So if you gather some scrap piece of muslin that is at least that big, or a bed sheet, or a piece of fabric that you bought and you thought you loved it, but then it doesn't go with anything and it's just been sitting around and now you hate it, this would be the perfect project for that, because we're going to cover it up. We're going to need 5-inch squares. So you're going to need 48 of those total. And so that's equivalent to yardage wise, 1 yard of fabric or 4 fat quarters. But I totally plan on going through my stash. And so 1 yard total is what you'll need. I'm going to go through and cut 48 5-inch squares from a variety of fabrics. And I'll show you that in Wednesday's video. You're going to need some white fabric for the applique, about 1/3 of a yard. And you're going to need green fabric for applique, about 5/8 of a yard. You're going to need border fabric, 5/8 of a yard. That's really the only thing I'm buying for this quilt because I want to use black and I don't have enough. So I will be buying 5/8 of a yard of border fabric. For the binding of this quilt, you'll need 3/8 of a yard, or of course you could always use the back of your quilt to bind this quilt as well. And then let's go over the other supplies we're going to need. I'm going to be using a glue stick, freezer paper. This is a raw edge applique using freezer paper technique that we're using in this quilt. I do have Heat and Bond Light on the supply list, but we're not using that for applique, and it's totally optional. I don't want to give too much away, but you do not have to have Heat and Bond Light for this project. You're going to need some type of Tearaway Stabilizer. Stable Stitch seems to be my favorite. I shared that in my last video, but I also plan on using coffee filters as my stabilizer in this quilt as well. So you do not have to spend tons of money. Grab yourself some coffee filters. Embroidery thread. When I say embroidery thread, this is the thread we're going to use to do a satin stitch around our applique. Okay, so that could be embroidery thread, or it could be the thread that you usually like to do your satin stitches with. Some piecing thread, a rotary cutter, and a cutting mat, and that's really just to cut out your pieces, and then we're done with that. A light box or a light pad or a window. You're going to need some kind of light source to trace your pieces. And without giving too much away, you'll see on the first video how I'm going to use my little light pad that I just got. And we're going to use that in this project. However, you don't have to have it, but it will help. And then I highly suggest downloading Adobe Reader software if you don't have it. And that is a PDF software. It is free on the internet, and it opens. You can view your PDF and you can print it very easily. And my patterns, all of them across the board, seem to really love that software. And in that software, there's different settings that you can change, and we will be using the print setting actual size. So when we print off our pieces every week, make sure that the actual size setting is checked. So let's just go over how we're going to do this. Now this grid is a little bit different than the one I showed you of Bob. Let me bring back Bob. Use the grid to draw Bob. So Bob does not have a grid. You just copy the pieces over. My pieces will come on 2 or 3 sheets of paper. They will be actual 5-inch squares with a bit of information in them. And they're all labeled with a grid. For instance, there will be C1 in next week's or in Wednesday's puzzle pieces. And actually all of the first row. So I thought, you know, for this first one, let's do it row by row and reveal the quilt as we go along. But if there's a lot of interest in this type of quilt and a lot of people enjoy it, then I thought about doing another one, and I've already got a design all lined up. That maybe next time, instead of going row by row, I would release pieces from all over, and the quilt would reveal itself a lot slower. So I might still even do that, even if no one does this quilt, just because I absolutely love these types of puzzles. And like I said, even if you don't plan on making this quilt, I really hope you join us because I love spending time with you. And if nothing else, maybe you'll see something, a technique or a product we use in the videos that will inspire you to create something on your own. I think that is everything, all the information. If you have questions, jump down to the comment section and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. If you have made quilts like this, I would love to see your pictures. Join me on Facebook or through Etsy. I'm going to put those links down in the description box as well. Let's see. Wednesday. That's just a couple days away. So that means tomorrow I get to play with my first puzzle pieces and make a video for you. So we will see you Wednesday. Again, if you click the subscribe button, you'll get notified when the videos are uploaded, especially if right next to subscribe you hit the bell notification, then you will definitely get notified whenever I come out with a new video, and you can be notified when the puzzle pieces are up. So again, this type of quilt is really not going to take a lot of your time throughout the week, especially after the first week and we go over how to do the pieces. Then each week after that, I think, we'll spend a little bit of time and go over the pieces, and then you'll be able to knock these puzzle pieces out really quickly. And I think of this size and this type of quilt is really fun to break up the larger quilt projects that we have going on, that sometimes we need to stop and walk away from it for a minute and do something different. And so this type of quilt is that kind of different project. Can you tell I'm really excited? Okay, I'm going to go, and tomorrow I'm going to film the first video for this, and we will see you Wednesday, and then every Wednesday after that for 8 weeks for this project. So I hope to see you all Wednesday, and either way, I hope you have a fantastic week. See you soon. Bye.